And joining us now is Representative Chris Smith from New Jersey. Representative Smith, welcome back. Always great to see you. Talk to us more about this human trafficking bill and why you feel it's so important that it gets reauthorized.
Sure. As the author of the original Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, which was our landmark law, this builds on those pillars of prevention, prosecution of the traffickers, and protection for the victims. So we have a number of new items in it, including housing, a significant amount of money that's dedicated to ensuring that those who have been trafficked and now have been rescued have the ability to live in a home or a rental apartment. And that makes a huge difference for them. There's a big emphasis on prevention to make sure that our young people are situationally aware so that they are not deceived into a trafficking situation, and usually after deception, drugs, and other ways to compel compliance is applied to them. And there are so many young girls and young women and young boys, too, who are being trafficked. So we need to make a whole generation of our young people, our students, no matter what schools they're in, private, public, whatever it is, aware. We have some curricula that can really be helpful in this regard. This takes it to a whole new level. And it also coming out of the pandemic, where we realized that grooming was a major, major problem online, to incorporate all of those lessons learned so that when people go online or they're on their phone, that they're not facilitated into a trafficking situation. So it's a very comprehensive bill. We've been working on it for months, and the Catholic Conference has been very, very helpful. The USCCB and the like have all been very, very helpful. So we're ready to get this on the floor. My hope and prayer is that it may be as early as next week.
And I know that you've often said that you consider human trafficking really a pro-life issue. Tell us why you say that.
Sure. I do believe, I'm a very, very strong believer in protecting unborn children from the violence of abortion. And hopefully we'll get good news soon on reversal of Roe versus Wade, which just begins the whole fight now at the lawmaker level without the constitutional barrier hanging over our heads. But I do believe we need to be very consistent in caring for the least of our brethren, as we're told and admonished by Jesus himself in Matthew 25. Whatever we do to them, we do to him, our Lord. And I think, there are a lot of people who are vulnerable because, when we're talking about the least, we're talking about situationally, that because of a situation, whether it be drug use or age, vulnerability, being a young person, that's what the least is. We got to make sure that we are helping them. So I do believe that, right to life is the most paramount human rights issue on the face of the earth. But we also have to be responsive, and the church has been magnificent in that consistency ethic. I do believe caring for the babies is paramount. 63.5 million unborn babies killed since Roe versus Wade by decapitation and chemical poisoning, just horrific methods, and the women who are the co-victims of every abortion. But we need to look in other areas as well and say, there too goes someone who is vulnerable, and we need to always care for the weakest and most vulnerable. And that's what this bill seeks to do, to take us to the next level on prevention, on prosecution of the traffickers, and on protection for the victims themselves.
If you don't mind, for those who may be not that familiar, with human trafficking, kind of give us a scope of how big of an issue this is right now, especially here in the U.S.
Oh, great question. There's all kinds of estimates, but 25, 30 million people all over the world, labor and sex trafficking, being 5+ million. Nobody knows the exact number, but it's right in our backyard. There's a sense of entitlement that some guys have, especially, where they don't care that the woman has been turned into a commodity for sale. And I think there needs to be a great deal more education to the men and the young men especially about the cruelty of what these women go through. My wife and I have met with many trafficking victims over the years and have been moved to tears by their witnesses. So the definition of a trafficking victim is any commercial sex with any woman who has not attained the age of 18, and after the age of 18, where there is an element of force, fraud, or coercion. So there's And with labor trafficking, obviously, it's similar. And again, you look all around the world with the sweatshops. You look at China with the genocide being committed against the Uyghurs. They use concentration camps every day of the week to make goods that are then exported to the United States, often transshipped through other countries like Vietnam. And they're doing it right now with solar panels pursuant to a brand new executive order by President Biden. Shameless executive order. To bypass an important law that goes into effect on June 21st, and I'm one of the authors of it, to make sure that nothing coming out of the genocide-laden area called Xinjiang in China goes to our markets. He now has provided a huge exception for solar panels and solar products, for solar energy, and for 24 months with no tariffs whatsoever on those products. It's shameless in my opinion, but he just did it on June 6th.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. That's really important to know, and so much more we could talk about. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you for your time, Representative Smith. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Please. Thank you.